You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons, but I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's ministries. You'll never be the same.
And the point that I'm making is that in everybody's life, at some point, there's a plan B. God is talking to us every step of the way. God is trying to show you something every step of the way. When things seem to be going wrong, that's God's way of opening another door. I am convinced that God has been directing me every step of my life.
On the Word Network. Welcome to Nicholas Hood III Ministries, a ministry of hope, spiritual inspiration, personal power guided by Christian love. May the power of God's Holy Spirit fall upon you as you sit back and enjoy today's program. I introduce you now to Pastor Nicholas Hood III.
Today I want to talk about anger, a righteous anger, and how you can be angry but not led into sin. In both the Ephesians chapter 4 and Psalm 4, there's a verse. In Ephesians, it was a letter written by Paul where he tells the Ephesians, be angry but do not sin. In Psalm 4, we have the psalmist saying, be angry but do not sin. And that's what I want to talk about for a few minutes today. It's human to be angry. You should not feel like there's something uniquely bad about you if you're angry. It's understandable if somebody hurts you to be angry. It's understandable if somebody talks about you to be angry. It's understandable to be angry when a child dies. It's understandable to be angry when an adult is minding their business and following the laws, and they get run over by a drunk driver. It's understandable to be angry if somebody misuses your money, misuses your time, misuses your heart, misuses your job. If somebody takes advantage of you, it's understandable to be angry. And I think it's so refreshing that in the Bible, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, we're told that it's okay to be angry. So that's the first point that I want to make today. It's okay to be angry. I talked to an older person the other day who told me that they're upset and angry because they took their grown child into their house. The grown child has gone through their bank account and making life difficult for them, and they're angry. And at the same time, trying to figure out how can I help my child, but I don't want to be hurt in the process. And then on top of that, I'm angry because my child just isn't doing right. And that's understandable. But what Paul says in Ephesians chapter 4 is be angry, but do not sin. And then he goes further to say, do not let the sun go down on your anger. And I think that what Paul is saying there is, if you're going to reconcile with your anger, number one, if you're not going to be drawn into sin, even though you're angry, that means you've got to find a way to reconcile. And we need to ask ourselves, what is a reasonable, responsible reconciliation? I talk to people all the time, well, not all the time, but sometimes, who, when talking about forgiveness, they say, well, to forgive means to forget. And I said, I'm not sure it really means to forget. I don't know if I can ever forget if you've robbed me. I don't know if I can forget if you've raped me. I don't think I can forgive you or just forget that you've been mean to me and insultive to me. When you've treated me like a dog, I'm not sure, I can totally forget. I believe I can forgive you, and I believe I can reconcile with you. But if I forgive you and I reconcile with you, I'm not sure I can go back to the way we were before you treated me like a dog. But Paul says, do not let the sun go down on your anger. Be angry, but sin not. And so I think that part of what Paul is saying is when he says sin not, is in the reconciliation process. It means that you and I have to figure out a way to forgive. We have to figure out a way to reconcile in a relationship so we can move forward, even though we may not be able to go back to the way the relationship was in the very beginning, before you stepped on me, before you spat on me, before you raped me, before you took my money, before you broke my heart. I'm not sure, I can treat you that way, but I can move forward. And to be honest, even if a person doesn't break your heart, even if a person has not committed a great sin against you, in the best of situations, if you have a long-term relationship that's good, I think about my marriage. I'm in my 49th year of marriage, the same person. We met when we were 21, got married at 24. And to be honest, we haven't had any great arguments. You have to ask her. Maybe she'll tell you something different. I told you a few weeks ago, we argued. The biggest argument we ever had about was who was going to take out the garbage. And once I came to my senses, I've been taking out the garbage for the last 49 years. But one of the beautiful things in a long-term marriage that is decent is that we're not the same people we were 49 years ago. And frankly, that's probably a good thing. To be honest, we've evolved and evolved in a good way. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that you don't have to have a bad relationship to have a different relationship. Even if you have a good relationship, if it's still a relationship, it's going to be a little different than you were when you were younger, when you first started out. And when Paul says to the Ephesians, be angry but sin not, I think that what he's saying is the sin is in your refusal to reconcile. The sin is in your refusal to forgive. The sin is in lording somebody's mistake over their head. The sin is trying to step on somebody like they're a water bug or a roach. The sin is trying to beat somebody into oblivion. At some point, you have to learn how to shut up. Shut up and listen. And not just shut up in a placating kind of way. Some people are real good at shutting up and they just don't talk. I know some people who shut up and they won't talk to you. They just don't want to talk. They don't want to listen. They don't want to have anything to do with you. And to me, that's so unfortunate because you don't know how long you're going to live. You don't know how much longer you have to live. And because of that, if you just shut down and you refuse to talk to somebody who you know you love, somebody who you know loves you, but you just don't want to talk because you want to make a point, you can get away with doing that. You can do that for years. I know people who've gone for years without talking to somebody else. And at the end, we have to ask ourselves, what did we really accomplish? And when you get ready to start talking, suppose the other person is sick. When you get ready to start talking to them, suppose the other person has died. And when that happens, then you have to ask yourself, what was the point, that I was really trying to make? And so Paul says with certainty, be angry, but do not sin. And that's the point that I want you to think about today. And I want to dig a little deeper into this subject of how can we not sin when we are first angry. Well, first of all, God says it's okay. God is saying through Paul, saying in the Old Testament, through the wisdom writer in Psalm 4, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry if somebody's been mean to you. It's okay to be angry if somebody has been disingenuous with you. It's okay to be angry when somebody has misrepresented themselves. They tell you one thing, but really they were intent on doing something else. You're well within your right to be angry when people have been vicious and cruel and unkind to you. But if we're to move forward in life, then Paul is saying we don't want to be led into sin. And sin, the pure definition of sin, is simply being against the will of God, separated from the will of God. And how can we separate ourselves from the will of God? Through anger. We separate ourselves if we try. Have you ever met people who say, I don't just get angry, I get even? To me, that kind of attitude will lead you into sin. If my response to your vindictiveness, if my response to your meanness, if my response to your callousness is that I'm going to outdo you in being mean and callous and vindictive and unforgiving and unkind, if I take that response, then I am being led into sin. How loving can I be? How can I preach love on one hand if I am going out of my way to quote unquote get even with you? If I'm bent on getting even with you, that means I'm not going to give you a chance to get it right. I'm not going to give you a chance to earn my forgiveness, to receive my forgiveness. You don't have to earn it, but even to receive it. And you can't receive my forgiveness if I don't give it to you. And so Paul says, be angry, but do not sin. I'm going to come back in a minute, and I want you to think about this during the break. And I want you to ask yourself, who am I angry with right now? Who is it who broke my heart 50 years ago? Who is it who did a dumb thing, thoughtless thing 50 years ago? And who is it that, really has made me angry? And then ask yourself, why is it I can't patch up with this person? Why is it I can't at least be friendly with this person? Why is it I can't talk to this person? And what point am I really making? And what does God see from on high if I have my lips glued because I just don't want to talk to you? Or when I talk to you, I want to be mean to you. That's what I want you to think about. Think about that during the break, and I'll be right back.
There are people all across this globe who now will have the opportunity to know you like I do, because of course you are very forthcoming in telling stories about life, stories that are relatable, and that means something. How wonderful it is, and I just look forward to seeing how this platform, this new platform, will just rise and grow and really be a vessel through which you can be a blessing to folk all over this world, and Lord knows we need it.
The point that I'm making is that in everybody's life, at some point, there's a plan B. God is talking to us every step of the way. God is trying to show you something every step of the way. When things seem to be going wrong, that's God's way of opening another door. I am convinced that God has been directing me every step of my life.
On the Word Network.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and His power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out.
Today I'm talking about how can we be angry but not sin. The Apostle Paul in Ephesians 4, but also in Psalm 4, verse 4, it says, be angry but do not sin. And I want to delve a little bit deeper into that. One, I think one of the ways we can avoid being led into sin when we're angry is to start asking some other questions. To ask ourselves, why am I angry? Am I angry because this person has intentionally done something to me? Or am I angry because maybe I did something that upset somebody else and then they were mean to me? You know, getting mad and getting even. Why is it I am angry at this person? I would start with that question. And then ask yourself, could I ever be, if the shoe were flipped, if I were in their position and they did whatever it was, that upset me, to me, how would I respond? And, try to understand a person's anger. Why, or understand why you're angry at them, why they have done what they've done. Sometimes I think we are upset with people who've done things unintentionally. I don't know, ask yourself, have you ever been angry at somebody because of what they didn't do? Not just what they did to you, but sometimes we get angry because we thought that any person in their right mind would not have said, would not have done, would not have gone to the lengths of what this person has done. And sometimes people do things in their ignorance. Sometimes they do it intentionally. But I would start by trying to analyze people's actions. And somebody looking at this might say, but Reverend, I don't think I care enough. I don't think I love that person enough to worry about their mindset. But if you really want to get beyond the temptation to sin, you might want to ask yourself, why? Why do I think this has happened? And is there something maybe I could have done a little differently? I'd start there. I would also ask myself, is it fair for me to get angry at this person? Let me take it another level. Not just is it fair for me to get angry at another person, is it fair for me to become angry with God? There are people who become angry with God because of something that was beyond their control. Angry with God because they were hit by a car. Angry with God because of a health condition that you didn't ask for. Nobody asked to contract cancer. We don't ask to contract diabetes or some other disease, but people get sick. And some people blame God. We don't ask God for anybody to die. Although, when I was younger, when I get mad at a church leader, sometimes I'd pray to the Lord. I said, Lord, why don't you just take him? But I stopped praying that prayer because as soon as I would pray that prayer, one of the people I liked would die. And I said, Lord, I'm not fooling around with you anymore. Not on that level. You just have your own way, and I'm right here in your corner. Whatever you choose, I'm your man. I am with you. And so I don't want to be led into sin because I'm angry, because somebody else was mean to me. But sometimes we become angry with God, angry because of what God didn't do, angry because God allowed our father or our mother to die, angry because God allows evil to exist in this world, angry because of the cruelty that we see in humanity, and wonder, well, where is God in all of this? And that's part of what Paul is saying when he says, it's okay to be angry, but don't be led into sin. You know, when you are angry and then you take from your anger the next step, which is, well, I'm angry with God because somebody did me wrong here on earth, and surely a God who's caring, powerful, and all-knowing would have made sure that this would not have happened. And I'm just here to tell you that it doesn't really work that way. That is not the relationship God has with the world. God has made you and made me to be totally free. And that means that God has made the next person totally free too. In Psalm 8, David says, what is man that thou art mindful of him, or the son of man that thou dost visit him? Yet he has made us little lower than the angels. We are like little angels. But sometimes we're bad little angels. And like these bad little angels, we take our God-given power and we just go buck wild. We take our God-given power that God has instilled within each of us to build this world up, to sometimes to tear the world down. If you look over history, there have been periods where individuals, great individuals, have really worked hard to build the world in a wonderful place. But then you have some individuals, and it seems like the ones on this next group, it doesn't take long to tear down what others, it may have taken years to build up. But God is saying to us today, you can be angry when people tear down, but don't be led into sin. You can be angry when people try to tear you down, but don't be led into sin. And to be led into sin means you're going to separate yourself from the will of God. And what is the will of God? That you and I should be fruitful and multiply. That means have a lot of babies and raise those babies. And if you don't have a baby, that's okay. But God wants you to be fruitful. And if you're to be fruitful and to be multiplying, that means that even if you don't have a child, at some point in your life, you ought to witness to the children around you. Now I'm going from preaching to meddling. I know somebody looking at this and saying, but Reverend, I've already raised my children. You telling me to get involved with having more children or helping somebody else? But all of us, most of us have a nephew or a niece who needs a little guidance. Most of us know somebody living in your neighborhood who could benefit from talking to an adult, who has their head screwed on straight, and talking to an adult who knows Jesus Christ, talking to an adult who knows that there's a value in trusting in the Lord with all your heart, to be still, trusting in what does it mean to be still and to know that God is God, to listen for God, to look for God, to live for God. And if you can share that good news with somebody else, it can be a child, it can be an adult, it can be somebody who's depressed, somebody who's lost, somebody who's just mean and cantankerous every day. You know anybody who's mean and cantankerous? I know a few. And when a person is mean and cantankerous, it seems like nothing will make them happy. But and nothing will make them pleasant. But if you, through your life, are able to share a good word for somebody who's mean, who's cantankerous, who is not kind or gracious, but rude and irritable and troublemaking, you have done the work of God. And when somebody, it's even better when somebody has done something intentionally or unintentionally that has hurt you. When instead of responding in anger and hatred and violence, to respond with love. Respond in a way that they don't see coming, and genuine love. A love that says, look, I understand why you acted the way you did, or maybe I don't understand the reason why you're acting the way that you're acting, but I want you to know that I love you anyway. I want you to know I can't put up with your behavior, but I want you to know that I'm going to take our relationship to the highest possible level. And I can only do that by loving you. And I can only do that by not allowing myself to slip into sin because of your foolishness. I don't want to slip into sin because of your meanness. I don't want to slip into sin because of your self-centeredness and your selfishness. I want to rise above all that. I want to rise to the level that Jesus Christ is seeing in me. That's the challenge I give you today. Rise and it just experience the joy that the Lord has for you. But you cannot experience it if you're stuck on anger. Be angry, but sin not. God bless you. God keep you. Look forward to seeing you next week. God bless.
We hope you've been blessed in a powerful way. Just knowing you took the time to watch today's broadcast is a great encouragement to Pastor Nick Hood. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you, we ask that you mail a tax-free donation to Nicholas Hood Ministries at 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
There are people all across this globe who now will have the opportunity to know you like I do, because of course you are very forthcoming in telling stories about life, stories that are relatable, and that means something. How wonderful it is, and I just look forward to seeing how this platform, this new platform, will just rise and grow and really be a vessel through which you can be a blessing to folk all over this world, and Lord knows we need it.
And the point that I'm making is that in everybody's life, at some point, there's a plan B. God is talking to us every step of the way. God is trying to show you something every step of the way.
You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons, but I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's Ministries. You'll never be the same.